I want you to get together.
I've still got people coming in, and we're still waiting. There is a little bit of a few thoughts I've been having relating to my recent video, where I was talking about how this clown subject in particular that I've niched myself into and created really does seem to be reaching non-believers in a way. The traditional methods of spreading the gospel just don't seem to be doing. And I think a lot of people well, not a lot of people, but I did get the odd one or two comment where I think they misunderstood what I was saying in my last video. I think they were thinking I was saying the gospel just isn't enough. And they were saying that's blasphemy. We're told to preach the gospel to everybody, and that's all that you need. And again, I don't think it's fair of them to make the assumption I was saying that. I was quite obviously not saying that. The gospel is the most important thing. It's how we bridge the gap between people who have no context to relate to the gospel message. I know in the past it may have been enough for certain people, but I think these new generations, younger than us, millennials. I mean, I'm a young millennial myself, and even I struggled to find any way to relate to the Gospels on a personal level. It was just so alien to me, the language and the styles and everything like that. And it took learning about spiritual warfare for me to finally understand the importance of it and actually have my heart opened enough to study the Gospel for myself. And I understand how it's difficult for younger generations to connect or find context, to find a way to actually see value in learning the truth in Jesus Christ. Because look, I get it. Maybe it's different for Americans than it is for British people. Maybe it is different. Um, I understand in America, Christianity and your many denominations in that huge land. Um, it's more ingrained into your culture in a way that it just kind of isn't here in England. In England, religion is something you talk about behind closed doors and not in public. It's not really, and church is just a country club you go to on the weekends and you leave it there, and it's basically just tea and coffee and a bit of a chat. It's not what it is for you in America. So for me, again, from my own personal experience, I know that it's just not enough to just talk about the gospel to reach young people. It's just not enough. And perhaps, maybe I should do a reading. I was just writing about this for my book today, actually. And I'll just get it up quickly because I was writing the preface for the book because I've almost finished it. I have one more chapter to write about DMT jesters and a conclusion, and then the book's ready to publish. Obviously, after a bit of proofreading and a bit of final editing, which I'm going to take a month or two to really do, so I get it right and get rid of all the spelling mistakes and all that kind of stuff, but proofread it. But I was writing the preface today, and maybe it's worth me just reading it because there's a kind of a paragraph in the middle where I'm trying to explain how it's this topic of talking about the Nephilim looking like clowns. It really does seem to be a way of reaching younger generations because it's something they can understand. It's something they can tangibly see and get their hands on that's influenced their own life. That helps them get some context for why it's important to understand Jesus and what he can offer, in terms of protection from spiritual attack. So I'll read the preface I have so far. This is all subject to change, by the way. This could literally be completely rewritten. All right, I think I've rewritten this like 50 times because it's hard to know what to say exactly in a preface. But this is what I've got so far. So let me just have a quick drink of water and I'll read it to you guys. And then once I've read this, I'll explain a bit more about what it is I'm trying to say exactly about this whole um, why it matters the way we say the gospel today. And how we kind of have to get with the times, But anyway, let me just read this. So, preface. When I made and published my first YouTube video titled "The Nephilim/Demons looked like clowns/jesters in October of 2016. I never imagined 8 years later I would be writing a preface to a book of the same title. If I was to be completely honest with the readers, I didn't even care about clowns and had never really given them a second thought until that day. Yet now I find myself discussing the history of clowns and their costumes on an almost daily basis, to audiences in the thousands, as some form of pseudo-expert on this niche subculture. It's my understanding that a preface is supposed to share some insight with the reader as to the author's inspiration and spill some behind-the-scenes tea of the production of the book. I fear it would be a dissertation all in its own when I look back on the complications that arose through this creative process. Let's just say that through an odd series of events, I now own the UK trademark for "The Nephilim Looked Like Clowns," which is something I never thought I would have to do. That being said, I have been explaining how this strange insight became a part of my life's work through numerous podcast visits, attempting to say it in the most succinct way possible, yet always failing miserably each time with a 30-minute spiel. If you care to know that story, you can pick any interview with me, at random, and the story will be told. But if I was to summarize in a sentence now, what seemed hazy when I was lost became clear once I was saved. I am a man who uses pattern recognition to form big picture maps that I then use to navigate life. But my inner desire has always been to help people navigate life too, by sharing these maps of an ever-changing terrain. Perhaps this is a result of my artistic proclivities since childhood, obsessively building things with matchsticks or attempting to copy the world onto paper or canvas with painstaking detail in any medium I could get my hands on. This creative need followed me all the way into adulthood, culminating in a BA Honours in Fine Art from Lincoln University and a YouTube channel dedicated to conspiracy theories. Once I gave my life over to Christ in March of 2014, I have been on a journey to share with others the truth and real tangible results that come from having a relationship with Him, and therefore the Father. However, I understand that traditional methods are not going to work if we are to reach younger generations with the good news. Exuberant buildings, stuffy congregations, long sermons, and Bible-bashing street preaching didn't work for me as a young millennial. I had no reference point to understand any of it, and I know many others can't either, especially in a world so heavily against God and biblical narratives as explanation for reality. No, everybody learns in their own unique way, and some people are more hands-on in their learning style, while some are happy to simply read book after book. I believe I have found in the clown a bridge for those in the world who need that extra bit of context to gain a solid base to jump off from and get to know the Saviour of all of mankind. Explaining spiritual warfare and the methods used against us by the adversary is a Christian's best weapon in exposing the darkness and winning souls for Christ. There is no human alive that hasn't suffered from spiritual attack. And if we can clearly explain what is causing them to have these terrifying encounters and how to best defend themselves, then, through practical application, they can now know that God is real, and so is the free gift of salvation. Maybe then their hearts will be open to receiving the gospel in the traditional sense, and preaching will no longer fall on deaf ears. This book is a labour of love and an accumulation of over a decade of research, and it maps out clearly each fact of this theory as it became apparent to myself. I had originally planned to document everything I had covered in one large doorstop made of paper, but I have decided to instead split this book into two more manageable halves. Volume 1, which you're reading today, is a foundational text for the series, as it lays out the history of the Nephilim from a non-denominational, Christian contrarian, conspiracy theorist viewpoint. Section 1 of Volume 1 shares the most peculiar and well-known theories and stories surrounding the existence of giants of an ancient world and their rise to earthly power. This is before discussing their subsequent defeat at the hands of each other, God's chosen people, and finally, the Messiah. I have also included some extra theories surrounding the involvement of mankind in the creation of these monsters and the role the lineage of Cain played in the angelic rebellion. I have tried my best in Section 1 to offer explanations for the continuation of the Nephilim into the modern age, using multiple sources to prove that not only did the whole earth suffer a flood of astronomical proportions, but many also survived outside of the main Noah narrative. Though controversial for most Christians to consider, I show that this does not actually contradict what the Bible teaches, and can make sense of much of the later books of the Torah, involving the Rephaim and the giants of Canaan. Closing Section 1, I explain the origin of the spiritual demons that Jesus spent a large part of his earthly ministry casting out of people, and how we today can defend ourselves against the now disembodied spirits of these once mighty giants. Section 2 of Volume 1 deals strictly with the clown aesthetic, and where we get the costume of a modern clown from, and how the Nephilim inherited their clownish looks from their dragon-like parents. In a truly shocking revelation, I explain how secret societies have had their influence on the development of this costume since its first introduction to the public in 1799. Inspired by the Rakshasa demons of Hindu mythology, it is clear that the white-faced clown of British pantomime are quite literally modelled after Eastern representations of the Nephilim. I also prove the first proto-clown of the Commedia dell'arte movement, Harlequin, also finds their origin in European representations of Nephilim, in the form of the wild man. You will read how circuses were moulded into an enormous public invocation ritual, mirroring the same rituals performed by Freemasons, Shriners, and the Oddfellows within Brotherhood lodges. I close this book with a summary glance at what is to come in Volume 2, giving a cursory glance into shamanistic use of the clown costume for their own rituals and performances. To these cultures, the image of a clown is a representation of their gods and civilization's ancestors, and is treated with fearful respect rather than mocking irreverence. Volume 2 will be a full exploration of all the cultures who dress this way and their purposes for doing so, but for now this brief introduction shows that clown societies have always existed, and they are indeed using their costume as a tool to channel the spirits of the Nephilim. The final chapter shows how these ancient shamanistic practices are still being used today by ignorant New Age users of powerful psychedelic drugs. These self-proclaimed psychonauts frequently report seeing jesters and clowns in the astral realms they explore during their trips. I hope to prove with the contents of this book that these modern encounters with spiritual clowns are not simply representations of archetypical symbols of the collective unconscious, but very real and explainable beings separate from us, who are there for a reason. The second installment will not only show the clown costume as a tool for channeling the Nephilim, but also how this method is being applied by the rich, powerful, and famous today. The spirits of these ancient kings and rulers are still at large, oppressing humanity in every facet of our society through murderers, media, fashion, music, film, animation, cultural movements, and within each and every person who allows them in. I plan to show how this has been happening for the better part of a century since the invention of new technological medias. I plan to teach the reader how we can easily recognize them when they present themselves. Armed with the obscure knowledge in this series, their colourful disguise is now exposed. So there you go, that's the preface I have to the whole book so far. But there is that particular chapter in the middle there, which is kind of pertinent to what we're discussing here. That you know, exuberant buildings, stuffy congregations, long sermons, and Bible-bashing street preaching didn't work for me as a young millennial. I had no reference point to understand any of it, and I know many others can't either, especially in a world so heavily against God and biblical narratives as explanations for reality. Now, I also make the point here that everybody learns in their own unique way, and some people are more hands-on with their learning style, and that's me. I'm one of those people. I can read about something to the end of time, but I won't understand it till I do it, till I try doing it for myself. And the actions of using my hands and doing the thing is how I learn to do stuff. Just simply reading about how it's done is not enough for my brain. Okay, and I understand we have to apply that to the same standard when trying to teach people the gospel, is what I'm trying to say here. Some people only understand the truth of Christ through practical means. For myself, it was when you know, it was the spiritual realms that I'd witnessed which made me understand that it's all real. I had to experience it for myself. I had to go through it. I had to be tormented by demons to realize that I needed Jesus Christ to cast them out. And then witnessing through my own experience the power in his name proved to me that it's real. And then that opened my heart to then read the Bible and the Gospels. But it only through practical means did it work. And I think, again, the clown is that practical bridge for a lot of people. Because we're inundated with clown symbolism all throughout our modern society right now. It's everywhere. I mean, right now, I think someone said this. You can currently pre-order on Xbox. They're pushing the advertisement to pre-order the brand new game of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It literally is everywhere for the youth right now. You have Hazbin Hotel, which is clown themed like demons. And you also have the Amazing Digital Circus, for example, as well. There's always an It reboot around the corner. There's always a new Joker or Joker movie around the corner as well. And you've got all your clown serial killer movies, American Horror Story. Then you have Clown World as a meme in which the whole world has become just clownish in nature. You have the movement of the Multicolored Collective, which also have display clownish features, which encourages the Clown World meme. You have 2023 clown fashion being pushed on people right now as well. Obviously, Elle, the magazine, pushed that 2023 Clown Fall collection is the hot trend of the year. It really is being pushed on people, and I think the youth are relating to the clown as like a way to escape from the horrors of reality, when truly what they're running into the arms of are the cause of the horrors of reality. So when they hear me explaining this clown theory, I think it speaks to them on a visceral, physical level. And I see the results because people tell me this has really changed something for them. It was this thing that saved them in a way, and I was shocked. I didn't think this would be it. I didn't think this would be the thing that people. I just didn't see it coming. I guess is what I'm trying to say myself. But if it's working, then I'm not going to scoff at it. And I'm going to take this seriously. And yeah, again, I'm amazed at how much this work has opened people up to find Jesus, and that's a great thing. That truly is a great thing. I think a lot of people are looking for spiritual answers, and I think these entities they encounter, for example, on DMT, know that person's searching for answers, and therefore sees them as an easy victim to fill their head with Luciferian doctrine. The do what thou wilt doctrine, the you are your own God doctrine, a doctrine that leads to nothing but destruction. And they can pose as beings of light and energy, and or perhaps their own subconscious talking to them, trying to teach them enlightenment or something. I don't know, but a lot of people will lap it up because they need a connection to something spiritual. It's kind of built into us to be like that, and And when, if you're on psychedelic drugs in some kind of trippy fractal matrix realm where everything is insane, and this psychedelic clown monster comes up to you and starts teaching you esoteric wisdom, so called. Who are you in that moment of ignorance to say, oh no, you're clearly not a good guy? You're gonna fall for it. You're gonna give in to astonishment, aren't you? You're gonna go, wow, this thing's incredible. This thing is amazing. I've never seen anything like this before. This must be a god of some kind. This must be an enlightened fifth dimensional being who's imparting to me the wisdoms of reality and the truth of the universe. That's their go-to point, because again, they have no reference to understand the biblical narrative and the reasons these things are actually there. They are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim who looked like clowns, and in their spirit form they have a similar nature, something akin to jesters. And yeah, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed the little reading of the preface there. And I hope you can understand where I'm coming from when I say that we need to find new methods to bridge that gap between the younger generations. And I hope you understand with that. I'm not saying the gospel isn't enough. It is. The gospel is all we need at the end of the day. But I know that not many people, young people, are not going to simply just read the gospel because we tell them they need it. That's not enough. They need something, some link to get them there, to open their hearts to reading it and receiving the truth in that. They need something. Okay, and if this clown thing's working, roll with it, guys. Send people the videos. Do what you can to, if people are struggling to see that connection, then do it. Use this if it's working. And I'm hoping the book can do that for people. I really am.
I want you to get together